work my ass off, but I still can't pay it though. But I got just enough to get off in this club and have me a good time before my time is up.
Good morning, everyone. You're probably saying to yourselves, I wish we had this a few days ago. But like any presentation, I know I am learning a lot. And you'll take away, and I have a feeling you'll do quite a bit more brainstorming in your careers. So I come from an agency called Rumble Fox, and we are very much not about what a brand says, but about what it does. And so what we try to create are brand building experiences that either create a service, that make you laugh, that make you want to pass something around, and that maybe is a little bit of fun. So show me, don't tell me is our mantra, and we create brainstorm sessions around this. How do you create something that somebody wants to use, that somebody wants to share? So our agency is built around this. We have what we call T-shaped folks, maybe M-shaped folks, that can stretch and flex across disciplines. So we have in our brainstorms people who are strategic but also creative, who understand technology, and who all come up with these incredible brand building experiences. And you heard a little bit about creating something new when it comes to innovation. We also like to think not just that it's new, but that it increases value. And is the thing that the teams are coming up with, are they actually doing something for the brand, but most of all, are they doing something for the end consumer? And so that really is, if I would say, please take away one thing, is that that really is what innovation is about. So I am quite out of the younger generation phase, and I've been around the block in a nice way. And I've been to a few of these agencies and have led brainstorms in a few of these agencies and also companies. So I worked quite a few number of years at RGA, at Huge, and also a company called MakerBot, and is very much a hacking, making kind of culture. And so what we do is, at these agencies and at these companies, is try to come up with brainstorms that are more like hackathons. How many of you guys have been to a hackathon? Okay, very few. But it's this notion of people think that they can't do this. And I'm here to tell you that you should start to think about brainstorms as if you're doing a hackathon, and also to give you ease and permission to understand that you guys can do this. It's not about how many Red Bulls do you chug. It's not about are you a mouth breather. It's about understanding how to brainstorm and how to make things. So this is the hacker kind of culture and mantra. And again, please take this away with you when you start to lead brainstorms or even participate. It's not about being perfect. I come from a digital agency, so the notion of perpetual beta is very much a part of our ethos. Move fast and break things. I do not believe that a strategist should be thinking through what is that guiding principle for weeks upon weeks. You should really just get down to it, stay focused and keep shipping. And what would you do if you weren't afraid? And I think that is probably the biggest thing, is don't be afraid. Say something. If people say, oh, I'm not sure, that's okay. That's the worst that can happen. So when it comes to creating a brainstorming team, and if you're leading this, think of it, just put everyone in a room or even in another setting. But multidisciplinary, I think, is very key. You want someone with different points of view. You don't want everyone to look like yourselves, think like yourselves, and brainstorm like yourselves. Fast, 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 right? You're trying to come up with a lot of ideas as quickly as possible. And in fact, the first day or the first few hours should really be about how many things can we put on a whiteboard. So quantity, which then leads to quality. So, embrace those false starts, half ideas and notions. If someone says something, make sure that the team takes that little nugget and expands on it. And you're thinking again about what it does, not just what it says. So about that service, it's about utility, fun, and emotion. So whoever's using the thing that you're brainstorming about, is it fulfilling a need or a want? And then also, if you're going to create things at the end of the day to showcase what you're thinking about, don't think you have to understand how to code. You don't have to know how to make things like the folks that I worked with at MakerBot. It's not about engineers. It's about coming up and expressing your idea in a way that conveys what you're trying to do. So here are a few steps on how to lead a brainstorm. So the first one is focus, focus, focus. So it's not like this, it's like this. So if the exercise is about, we have wheels and we want to take you somewhere, and this is the notion again of perpetual beta or MVP. It's about creating things in stages that get to the final result, as opposed to only waiting for the final result. So giving gentle guidance is step 2. I know IDEO was mentioned as a brand or as an agency that really encourages great thinking. And I think they have a set of rules and cards that I would really encourage you all to download and find. But the notion of deferring judgment, encouraging wild ideas, which I'll talk about, building on the ideas of others. But before you start, you want to make sure that everyone's clear that it's not about right or wrong, and it's not about being the best in the room. It's about you're creating something that you want to have impact in the marketplace. So collaboration. Collaboration is what I would call the necessary ingredient. But the problem is that everyone talks about collaboration, but what does it mean? It's what's called a weasel word. So I bet everyone has had different collaborative experiences and moments in their lives. And when you ask each person from each table, what does collaboration mean to them, they might have a different definition. I'm here to tell you what I think collaboration is and how you can facilitate that when you're leading a brainstorm. So using that weasel, how many have seen this? It's the weasel with the woodpecker. But what was beautiful is that here's a photo that was passed along again and again, and then someone made it better, right? They added on, and it brought a smile and laughs. But then they added even more, right? So the notion of collaboration just being about people working together, it's about, in my mind, and not but. So someone puts an idea out there, then your role as the leader of a brainstorm is how can you, this is a very technical term, zhuzh it, and make it even better. So how do you, that to me is what your role is as a facilitator or leader of a brainstorm, is helping people build on the ideas of others to make it better. Step 4, critique, not criticism. This is something that I think only time will improve for people in the room, but I've seen this image, the sandwich technique about giving negative feedback. Has anyone seen this? I call bullshit on this because I think people know that you're gearing to give them bad feedback when you try to sandwich, oh, you look nice today. By the way, that idea sucks. Oh, you look nice today. I mean, it's very obvious. So I think what the point is about giving good feedback. So when you hear an idea that you think isn't the greatest, don't use the sandwich technique, please. Instead, offer words that get to an improvement of that idea, not the judgment of the idea, right? And as a leader, you're setting the tone for the rest of the team to also add on to that idea to make it better, right? Be honest. So I think what happens a lot of times with criticism versus being a little bit, people try to be nice and they don't get to the point, so people don't know if their idea is bad or good. Be honest about what you're thinking and feeling, but with those words of how to improve it. Again, building on the idea, which I mentioned before, being specific, and helping and not squashing. So again, you're facilitating critique in that brainstorm session. It's not about criticism. Step 5, which is the big one, is thinking big. And that is your role as leader of a brainstorm. So you want people to think as big as possible, and you want to remove the barriers. So this might sound familiar. I know on the briefs that you guys worked on, there was a budget. And for some of the teams, for the briefs, there would be some legal issues. Those are the things that you want as a leader to say, we understand that they're there, but put it away because it might get in the way of thinking big. So try to take those obstacles away. Try to, if the team itself is starting to say, but what about this? But what about this? We can't do it because of this. Your job is to say, no, don't worry. Because then you can rein it in and make those wild ideas a little bit better. So know your purpose. As I mentioned, you have wheels, that's who you are as a brand, and you want to create a vehicle to get someone from point A to point B. If you know that, that's a great place to start. Don't rein it in yet. Encourage that wildness, because sometimes those wild ideas create amazing things. Build upon and listen. Don't squash. Real communication. So share a point of view, don't hide it in a sandwich, but also give constructive critique. And think big and wild and go for quantity. Thank you.
That was great, and we are a little under, so if we have a couple minutes, if anyone has any questions, over here.
Hi. So one of my questions is, I work in a satellite office, and my creative team is in a different state. So do you have any tips for leading a brainstorm when you're remote?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of great tools out there too. Obviously face-to-face and being in a meeting like we have been doing for the past few days is wonderful. But I know my company uses Slack, and we have a lot of folks who are from all over the world, and we collaborate that way, but there are other tools to do that. And somebody submits something. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Slack, but this is not because I'm getting any money from Slack, just so you know. But the notion of you put something out there and then people, like a chain. And I think that's a really nice way to do it digitally.
Digiday runs on Slack.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we love it. Question over here, Megan. Have you read the Jonah Lehrer book, the one that he was subsequently busted for plagiarizing?
Oh, no.
He has a whole chapter, it's too bad because there's a whole chapter on brainstorming where he sort of debunks a lot of the myths of the way it works.
Right,
it's actually,
right.
It's worth reading even though he sort of
A
blew
plagiarist.
it. Yeah.
I think the part you talk about with the critique versus criticism, I think that's a huge thing I've noticed, especially, I mean, I have a background in architecture, so like that was the key. It was like you had to be critical, but in a constructive way. And like getting into media, it's like you see a lot of like young 22-year-olds that aren't used to having to be, like they play nice too much almost, like especially in certain scenarios. So do you have teas for like really pushing people to get out of that? Like, I think you did a great job, but like you don't have to do that. Like how do you get people to really understand, and if you have tips for how to push people out of that mode?
Well, I think, again, as a leader, then you can start to pose the questions around the room for the people who are brainstorming to get to those nuggets that you want, so it's all in the question. So it might be as simple as, do you think this is something that this end consumer would use? What could we do to improve it? And start to get to those questions that lead to more of that critique. And I think as a leader, you want to shut down either the really general, I don't like this or this sucks, or the, oh, this is nice, and which is not helpful either. So I think as the leader, you can start to say, well, would someone use this? How might it be a better fit for what our goals are?
I think that's unfortunately all we have time for
Thank
with this
you,
session.
everyone.
That was great.
Go Team Yellow!
All right, we're going to do